Hello and welcome back to REV Endurance Sports, and today I wish to share with you a personal experience from my ride on Sunday. So today's February 3rd, so this happened on Sunday, February 2nd. I was out on a ride, just kind of, as they say, just riding along, JRA, and a gentleman comes up on my right side, kind of a no-no, but we'll talk about that another time. And he starts talking to me, and I don't recognize him at first. He tells me his name. I'm like, oh, yeah, you came to my shop before COVID, so 5 years ago. And he has moved further inland from my shop, so he hasn't been around. But anyway, we're riding along. I'm about 1 mile into my ride when he comes to join me. And now we are about 5 miles into the ride. Narrow bike lane. He is kind of half a bike length in front of me. Narrow bike lane. I'm kind of in the center of the bike lane. He's on the edge of it. And then, of course, a curb on my right. At the very last second, he calls out rocks in the lane, and they were across the lane, so not lengthwise, across the lane. Boom, I hit it. Try to keep the bike under control. Nearly impossible. Rocks were, one of them was at least grapefruit size, and then the others were about orange size. Rubbed the front wheel against the, inadvertently, of course, rubbed the front wheel against the curb, trying to scrub off as much speed as possible, and then, I do lose control of the bike. So we have some teaching moments here. When I texted Jess a picture of my scraped up leg, she was like, teaching moment. And I'm like, yeah. But she didn't know it was my leg. And it's funny because you could just barely in the corner of the picture see my leg shoe. But all right, so let's talk about first the injury. No problem. Skinned knee. The bone, is tender. We might talk about wound care at some point, but got home. Well, actually, it was like 5 miles into the ride, did another 45 miles, did about 50 miles. Then came home, showered, cleaned it, and then put a Tegaderm bandage on it. These things are amazing. Please get yourself some Tegaderm if you have any road rash. I'm not a doctor, just what works for me. So there's a disclaimer for that. So now let's look at, so I tore my, financially, so I tore my knee cooler, a Pearl Izumi knee cooler, but I think they're like $30, $35 retail, not sure. And then, this is the biggest issue for me now. I hope that this can focus in. I'm going to kind of put my hand behind it like Rusty does. So you see this right here? You see that chink in the aluminum rim there. Now, this goes back to many times when I say I don't ride carbon rims. So had this been a carbon rim, it probably would have exploded. Quite literally, just the rim would have broken right there, and I would have been SOL, as they say. But because it's an aluminum rim, I was able to just, and the wheel stayed true, which is amazing. It did cut the tire, so I put a Dynaplug in there and was able to continue with my ride. So, this is a Het Ardennes black, and so I'm going to have to replace this rim. Most likely I'll just replace the whole wheel because I've had this for about 5 years, give or take 8 to 10,000 miles per year. It's got a lot of wear, a lot of time on the road with this wheel. So, who knows? Maybe I'll just have to replace it. Good thing is, Het still makes these wheels every day. I've got a set sitting here that I did an unboxing video that I still need to do some edits on. All right, so what about the teaching moments about this? Number one, I generally ride alone. I went out alone, it's 10ish in the morning. If you want to ride with a group or groups of people, you leave your house much earlier, get to the 8 a.m. group ride. That wasn't what I did. I went out at 10ish, was doing my own thing by myself, headphones on, just riding. I like that because on a daily basis, I'm pulled from all angles with work, with other stresses. If I ride my bike by myself, I'm good. I'm lost in my thoughts, but I am, believe it or not, in the zone. I know exactly what's happening up the road, behind me, to my sides. I know what's going on. And I know how to prevent. I rarely will crash by myself. A crash is typically based on other factors, external factors, someone else, rain, wet road, slick white paintings on the pavement. All right, so teaching moment. For me, especially as an experienced rider, I fault myself because I should have, one, either been further back behind him instead of us side by side. But the thing is, he kept talking to me. And this is the thing, I don't like talking when I'm on the bike. And it's also just, it's not a very good conversation place because you're up, down, and this section of road is about 6 miles or so, and it's just a constant rolling terrain. So you're either out of breath going up, depending on how hard you're riding, and especially since I just left the house, so not warmed up yet, or it's downhill and you're doing 30 plus, 40 plus. So it's just not very conducive for conversation. But he kept talking to me, and I didn't want to be rude, but I had to keep saying, what? And I don't like that when it's time to talk. Let's talk at the coffee shop, That's why I do no-no rides. The sooner I get them done, the sooner I'm back at the coffee shop, and then we can talk for hours, right? So first thing is, I should have given more gap, been more behind him. I generally ride the line on a bike lane. Almost regardless of how wide it is, I almost always ride really, really close to the white line. He was, as I said, half a bike length in front of me. That left me no out. I couldn't go to the right because the curb was there. I couldn't go to the left. Remember, we're in the US. I couldn't go to the left because he was there. So, if I go to the left and I hit him, it might upset his line. If I'm far enough behind him, or in the perfect scenario, I'd hit my wheel, he would not be impacted at all. So I needed to be further back. But you get complacent because you're an experienced rider. You think you're riding with another experienced rider. So while I fault myself, I think maybe a small part, actually I don't, the truth is he should have called out those rocks a lot sooner. So if I see something, because I'm almost always in front of my crew, or now that Jess and I ride almost exclusively together, I use verbal, and I'll say rocks up, because we're not there yet. I can't give you the signal to move out of the way. Maybe it's not safe to move away from the debris until we get a lot closer, or whatever, right? So I don't like the inside part of the lane. I generally don't like the middle part of the lane. So I don't know. Make some comments down below. Where do you like to ride in the bike lane, or let's just say the shoulder, or the edge of the road? I like to be away from the edge of the road. Another teaching moment, basically, the way that lane was going, it then was going to open up to where we needed to cross or go across a right-hand turn lane to get back to a bike lane that's kind of playing chicken. I should have been more on his wheel so that I could then be the tail gunner and be able to call out clear to then transition, move over that one lane to get into a turn lane. So if you can visualize this, to the right would have been a turn lane, then the bike lane, and then two other straight lanes. So from the curb, we needed to transition that way. That's where I should have been. So I kind of fault myself for that. The good news is tubeless worked. I put a plug in, was able to, there was some loss. I think the tire might have even burped, I'm not sure. But there was some pressure loss. I had my Silka pump, so I was able to air it back up. And, you know, with that dyno plug, pretty much on the shoulder, if you can see that. It's like pretty much right on the shoulder where it might be an issue to seal. Yeah, what are your thoughts? What could I have done differently? What have you experienced when you're out riding with this similar situation? Fortunately, he was not impacted at all. But going back to the fact that I ride aluminum wheels, I'm fortunate enough that had this been during an event, I would have been able to complete the event. So for the rest of the ride, I very gently used my front brake. I didn't like the pulsing sensation, but I also wanted to finish the ride, be done with it, because I don't know if that chink in the rim is going to cut that tire. It probably will. So whatever you folks think, make a comment down below for that as well. Yeah, that's all I've got for today. So as you can see, I'm good, but a little bit of my pride and a little bit of my my experience level that should have been more maybe I could have prevented it. I don't know though. I mean, I've been replaying it in my head over and over and over again. And that's the thing, you just can't stop thinking about it. You're like, well, what could I have done differently? And you're like, just be by myself. I mean, and I would have seen the rocks up ahead, and you know, the thing is, the person in front of you, if they're moving back and forth, you know, sometimes you see the bike lane, sometimes you don't, or you know, the roadway up ahead, and you know, he was back, forth, sometimes he's side by side. I mean, if you're going to ride with someone, I've often said your handlebars should be, you know, that's how you pace yourself. It's, you know, you're looking at the person's handlebars and your handlebars, and then you're constantly like, oh, he's getting ahead. Oh, but I can't keep up that pace. So then that person kind of slows down to your pace, right? So you can ride together. Being half bike length is a recipe for disaster. So anyway, I'd like to hear your thoughts. So please make comments down below. Let's get a discussion going. And if you want to see my injury, if you will, you can go to my Strava and find it there. I'm not going to post it on here, but it is posted on my ride for Sunday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please like and subscribe. We'll see you up the road.